We are now setting up the stage for our first panel discussion of the day. And this panel discussion is the Code-Free Governance Panel, Agile by Design, powering the digital leap with low-code platforms. So we are going to explore how these platforms are enabling the UAE government entities to rapidly deliver secure, citizen-focused digital services. And we're going to highlight the strategies to build agile public sector systems by design without the heavy code and the complexity. So our panelists and our moderators are ready to go? Yes? All right, so please join me in welcoming our moderator, the Senior Advisor for Innovation and Advancement in Education, Sharjah Private Education Authority, Wajdi Manai. Welcome. Please do sit under your photos. It will be better for the pictures. Our panelists, the Director of IT for Ras Al Khaimah Economic Zone, Dr. Walid Elsahar. Welcome, Dr. Walid. Dr. Fouad Abou Chacra, VP Transmission Digitalization at DEWA. Welcome, Dr. Fouad. Preethi Premnath, Strategic Advisor, Common Digital Platforms, Department of Government Enablement. Welcome back, Preethi. Nice to see you again. Mr. Majd Khabour, Strategic Advisor to Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer Office, Dubai Health Authority. Welcome, Majd. Maryam Almansoori, Emirati Coding Ambassador for Coders HQ. And Tiberiu Socaci, or Socaci, yes, first one or second one? Socaci, co-founder and CEO of Make It Future. Welcome, everyone. I will just remind Wajdi, our moderator, to please pay attention to the timer in front of you. Floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for being with us. What a great segue to what Mr. Walid has presented, Mr. Khalid, sorry, has presented this morning. I thank you all for being here. My name is Wajdi. I work at Sharjah Private Education Authority. In my domain, which is education, I see the slow propagation of low-code, no-code / AI in a heuristic, deterministic approach to both. Only last week, I met with a teacher who, in a non-deterministic way, was very proud to tell me the story about the need of creating a quick app that created some engagement around some activity she had in the classroom. And what usually taken weeks working with IT or months gaining the skills herself to do was done in a matter of minutes. And if that's happening in education, today is the opportunity to talk and look at other different fields and different sectors and see how low-code, no-code AI is being used in those fields. And hopefully there will be a great discussion amongst everyone. I want to thank my panelists to be here as well. Thank you all for making it today. And I have a set of questions, and we'll have some reflection about this. I'll start with Dr. Walid. Hi, Dr. Walid. Good morning.
Good morning.
My question to you is about how can low-code and no-code platforms accelerate the delivery of digital services while ensuring governance and compliance within the public sector frameworks?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you again for having us today with you to share our thoughts and learn from you as well. Thank you, Khalid, by the way. I learned something so far. And in Ras Al Khaimah Economic Zone Authority, as a government authority, our main focus in the last few years was about accelerating digital transformation through customer-centric digital services. Over these years, there was always a challenge about how we can deliver faster services while maintaining governance. At the end of the day, we are a government entity. We are a heavily regulated entity. We need to deliver services while maintaining regularity. Fast forward, in the last 8 years, we transformed all our services into digital services. 80% of all our services and revenue is now purely offered and delivered through digital channels. 90% of our walk-in clients have been reduced in the last 8 years. Only clients coming to us physically only for exceptions or just to do their medical test when they apply for visa. However, there was always a challenge. How you deliver a service fast without sacrificing compliance. And low-code, no-code platforms was giving us this capability with 3 key principles. First of all is standardization by design. It means that most of those platforms, Magdi, are already coming with predefined templates, workflows that already comply with security, data, and design experience standards. So you are already starting with a very strong foundation, and this is what this platform are already giving you. Secondary, which is really very important to us, and it was a key enabler, which simply centralized governance with decentralized innovation. I always say, and I always believe, no one knows business better than the business themselves. Waiting for IT department to develop and enable a new business service, it will be always a bottleneck. So such platform help us to enable different departments to design their own services, prototype it. However, you have all of this done under strict governance framework that already enforced through your low-code platforms. So this enabled us to really deliver more services because now it is have dependency on the business themselves to deliver their own services rather than technology people try to understand what business need and what need to be delivered. And last thing is controlled acceleration. What this mean? It mean if you already have any practice of a development in your organization, regardless if you are using low code, no code, or traditional development, or even new system which is already empowered by AI and agentic AI, you need to have a DevOps framework and capability within your organization. So whenever you are releasing, this need to adhere to your DevOps framework, your SLDC practices. So this ensures that whatever is being developed is adhering to those frameworks. So definitely low code, no code is a strong enablers. But with those 3 guiding principles, you ensure that you're enforcing governance along with accelerating the delivery of new capability.
Thank you, Dr. Walid. Dr. Fouad, I'm going to move into you and ask you the following question with respect to how do you see low-code platforms contributing to the broader vision of intelligent automation and operational efficiency, especially in critical sectors?
So when we talk about critical sector, power utilities are the main part of the critical sector. Our mission is to keep the lights on, so we're not allowed to have downtime. And I want to refer to the presentation that we had earlier. So enterprise architecture is the main framework where we can see our systems, we can see their connectivity, and we can see the purpose of every system deployed. The practice in power utilities is somehow an architecture that comes from Gartner. And Gartner model looks at 4 layers. So they have systems of record that are usually off-the-shelf systems, that are the hardcore operational technology systems, such as protection relays, control units, SCADA systems to control the network, and others, where we should not touch. We don't touch the code. We just want to make sure that these systems run without failures because the power supply reliability depends on this in this system. The second layer in the architecture is system of differentiation, where power utilities deploy applications or solutions with minimum customization. And I'm talking about the power system applications, optimization applications, economic dispatch, generation control, all these applications that ensure that things run in an automated fashion in unmanned substations. And in Dubai, all our substations and assets are unmanned. We have 0 human operators in these assets. The third layer in Gartner architecture is systems of innovation. And system of innovation, this layer, we can allow developers to create applications that bring data from data sources to end users. So they can create workflows, they can create data and analytics dashboards, and so on. It's in this layer where we do our low-code, no-code development. But from a power utility perspective, the term low-code, no-code is beyond development, software development in low-code, no-code platform. So even at the center of our networks, at the heart of our networks, for us, low-code, no-code means security solutions that can detect baseline patterns without customization, without coding, in learning mode. We're talking about zero-touch provisioning, because we cannot allow downtime when we replace assets. We need to remove an asset, swap it with another asset. This is zero downtime provisioning. And what's behind the zero-touch provisioning is a low-code, no-code development. So this is how we look at low-code, no-code. It's across all layers of the architecture, but mainly to ensure zero downtime, continuous reliability, and maximum productivity from our developers.
Thank you, Dr. Fouad. I'm going to make a big jump here to Majd. Hi, Majd.
Hi, how are you?
So in your field, how can low-code, no-code platform enhance the agility and efficiency of data-driven, AI-powered public services?
Thank you. And just to allude to the presentation that was done earlier as well, low-code, no-code isn't what's new, right? When we think about ultimately the power when it comes to agility, it's in leveraging the power of AI and Gen AI, agentic AI, etc., to be able to better meet the needs of individuals and organizations. So inherently, I truly see it as transforming the way in which public services are being developed, in how they're enhanced, and ultimately in how they're delivered. And that is done by reshaping three things, in my opinion. I think number one is operational efficiency and efficacy. Where we're heading to is much better and lower reliance on technical resources from an engineering standpoint and a technical perspective, which in this age and time, with the shortage of talent, in addition to understanding a lot of the capacity, the existing capacity challenges, that becomes really instrumental. So reworking those workflows in a way that ultimately democratizes the operational efficacy is critical. The second area, which is very close to my heart, is human centricity, right? And meeting customer needs in the best way, which gets back into those who understand the pain points best are those who are closest to either the service delivery or the customers. So really empowering that layer of individuals with the right tools and resources and to be part of that innovation cycle is really crucial to ensure that we're continuing to meet the needs of the individuals that we're servicing, especially around something as sensitive as healthcare becomes even more crucial. And lastly is unlocking innovation. Data is at the heart of everything, and unlocking the massive amount of data that exists within all of us is not a centralized unit's job. It truly starts with understanding which additional data should we be looking at, and how can we connect the dots to be able to enhance what we're doing. And that ultimately makes that whole process a process that is done responsibly. What I love about some of the platform from a low-code and no-code platform perspective, or even tools, inherently they have elements of data validation, risk measures, etc., that enable the innovation aspect to be done, just like was said before, in a deterministic way to ensure that some aspects of the responsible innovation piece comes into play. So reducing the cycle, trying to bring better innovation that is more customer-centric and operationally efficient is what I think is at the core of the opportunity.
Thank you, Majd. Thank you. I move into Preethi. Okay, Preethi. For you, how can public institutions transition from pilot projects to enterprise-scale implementations of low-no-code platforms effectively?
Thank you for the question. First of all, good morning, everyone. And thank you, Low Code, No Code Summit, for this opportunity again. From what I've seen across the government entities, meaning this is literally my life at the government entities, where I see piloting a low code, no code platform isn't the real challenge. One department gets a crazy idea and they want to build a small app quickly. The real struggle now begins on how we move from this good pilot to a government-wide enterprise transformation. And more so often, the pilots fail to scale. People attribute it to technology. It is not technology. It is because it's built in isolation. It may solve a small problem at one corner of the organization without thinking what's coming next. Hence, it is necessary for us to shift certain ideologies. So a pilot implementation can never be considered as a final product. We would need to see it as a blueprint. Pilot is a success factor where you can identify standards, reusable components, artifacts, which will essentially give you an enterprise toolkit. That is what you need to see a pilot implementation as. Secondly, what happens is a strong foundation. This is what I think many a times people seem to overlook. So data, if it is fragmented, if every department tries to have their own way of defining a service, then things just get complex. So any low-code, no-code platform, for sure, it accelerates good processes, but it also accelerates bad processes. So if things are not set right from the start, things can go into a chaotic state. So it's rather best to invest the effort and time to build standard data models, a master catalog, all of this, which I'm sure many a times, especially in this region, we do not have the luxury because time is precious, right? And last but not the least, which again is something which is much spoken about, is about building capabilities and not dependencies. Yeah. So low code, no code platform, again, when people think about scale, they're like, okay, let's hire a bunch of tech resources, the workforce. It doesn't happen that way. It is about creating safe empowerment. And that can only happen through models like citizen development, automated test frameworks, reusable components, etc. So the real magic is moving away from a project mindset to more of a digital factory mindset. And essentially with this, what I've seen is transformations stop getting complex and they become inevitable.
Thank
Yep.
you, Preethi.
Thank you.
Tiberiu, you are the heart of it at Make It Future. So how a provider like you make sure that public entities can adopt low-code, no-code platforms that are secure, scalable, and adaptable?
Hello, good morning. So at Make It Future, we do this, we work with no-code solutions every day. That's our DNA as a company. And by working with public entities and also private entities for the last 6 years, right, we've seen, okay, what are the best practices in the market? We help entities really select what are the low-code, no-code solutions that fit their architecture. Sometimes that could be on-prem, self-hosted solution, and some other times a cloud solution can just work as good, and we really believe that's most of the times. At the same time, especially in the last 2 years, we're seeing a lot of push on the AI, right? Everybody wants to start using AI. They have ideas, but we're seeing especially public entities having a slow start on that because they look at it by having big investment in having their own infrastructure, having their own architecture, while we truly believe before really spending millions into investing in your own GPUs and things, you can really start very fast by using cloud solution APIs in a pilot way, which for sure needs to be looked at, okay, how do we get that pilot towards a scalable and supported architecture? But we as a company really help companies start very, very fast and help private entities as well. And we're looking at solutions that really are controllable and scalable. If I connect to the previous presentation, I think especially with AI, we have the feeling that everything is doable and the AI has the capacity to understand everything, but we really need to look at solutions where we have the control, right? We really need to look at, okay, if the AI accesses a part of a database, right? Should it have access to that data? Is the user that is asking the question or asking for a workflow should have access to that data? And that decision, in my personal opinion and in Make It Future opinion, should not be made by the AI. We need to have in place structure control, static control that will be able to define, okay, based on this user ID, based on this number, based on this chat, based on the person, he should not have access there, right? And these kind of things are really, really important when deploying these kind of solutions.
Yeah, very, very important. Thank you so much. A very good insight. Sister Maryam, good morning. How do you at Coders HQ use low-code, no-code platforms in general to inspire a whole new generation of developers, especially amongst youth and women?
Hello and good morning, everyone. Actually, nowadays the no-code and low-code platforms are letting us to build our ideas easily, because before, when we were making our ideas, when we are thinking about an idea, it was difficult for youth to make it in a real life. But nowadays, those platforms are supporting us, like we can build our prototype in hours rather than staying working on it in a weeks. And even no-code and low-code platforms are supporting the women, and when they would like to build their own website or own applications for example, on their mobile, for example, let's say for e-commerce. They are built by their own selves. No need to ask for an agent or for someone to build it for them. Nowadays, we are not asking for, we are not being like customers. No, we are trying to be creative people, like how developers are trying to do. Even nowadays, those platforms are supporting the economy as well. Some entrepreneurs are trying to build by their own selves and trying to create their ideas. And because before, we were only thinking about an idea and that's it. We are not applying our idea. But nowadays, it is easy for us, like we are building our idea, we are making our prototype to show people how our idea is working, and we are trying to make some innovation things and add it to our project.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's an interesting perspective. At least that is actually the generation is going to continue building on whatever we're accomplishing here. I think in general, what I'm sensing is like this idea of bridging these two worlds, getting the best of these two worlds of how can we unleash the potential of people to innovate while at the same time keeping control and structure that allows for security, safety, and robustness is kind of the hard nut to crack. And I think joining low-code, no-code classic platforms with the agentic AI is kind of the way to go. So that's what I'm getting from this first round of conversation. Preethi, back to you with another question, and I'm mindful for time. So what role do you think platforms governance play to ensure that low-code, no-code solution deliver long-term strategic value?
Yeah. I think the term governance comes in. It's like as in, okay, the policing has come through on the platform. But how I see it is like low-code, no-code platform could be the engine, but governance is the steering wheel. Yeah. So you can really move fast, but with no directions, you would end up with tons of disconnected applications, which would for sure lead into a major technical debt. So I think people should view governance, firstly, bringing in trust and safety. Because without governance, you would have apps, again, what are we really doing with low-code, no-code platforms? We're actually leveraging the business, right? Enabling them to build their own apps. And essentially, why we do this, exactly as my colleague mentioned here, we're trying to kind of bridge the gap so that nothing is lost in translation, right? So with governance, what happens is every app, especially in the government entities, meaning data is quite sensitive. So what we ensure is with governance, there are, meaning if there are apps being built by a developer, a business user, or a power user, they still follow the same set of rules in terms of the access controls, the security, the reusable components. And because of this, what we ensure is that innovation won't compromise compliance, because that is really key. The second aspect is that with governance, what we also try to ensure there is there's always a strategic alignment. It is not that just someone gets an idea one day, okay, let me build an app. And then essentially what happens, the platform just becomes a collection of random automations. But with governance, what we ensure is that these apps are linked either to an enterprise service or to a process or to a strategic outcome, essentially driving the enterprise to a more shared digital vision, which could be probably an AI native service delivery, maybe automated operations, or even seamless citizen experience. Yeah? And last but not the least, which is key, is quality and sustainability. So what you build today should exist for another 5 years at least. So this is what we have to ensure with governance. So governance is not a blocker, it is an accelerator, and essentially we would have safe and responsible transformations.
But I like what you said. We don't want the platforms to become a collection of random automation, because basically you don't have a platform, you have pretty much everything. Majd, and I draw a parallel usually between education field where I was and healthcare, which is basically, if we're talking about governance sensitivity of data, it's very important to be thinking about healthcare and education the same way. They're both complex systems. In education, similarly to healthcare, I think there is always this tension between the technical team and the non-technical team, especially when it comes to communicating and collaborating in the purpose of innovation. How do you think low-code and no-code, in healthcare at least, help with that collaboration between non-technical and technical
Certainly,
teams?
and I fully share that sentiment 100%. So there is great to have things in common because we can always learn from the two different industries, right? From one another to be able to do it. And I'll add the financial one on top of it because
good.
I think just drawing parallel into the sensitivity of the data, etc. To just go off of what you were saying around yielding all of those great benefits, I think inherent in it is bringing everybody together to collaborate. And I think again, low code and no code, especially in the age of Gen AI, becomes a key instrument that is, again, reshaping what we mean with collaboration. Typically, technical teams and non-technical teams come together in the routine workflow process of, as a domain expert, I'm going to sit and tell you what my requirements are. As a technical team, I'm going to sit and hear everything that you want me to do. We're going to misalign. There will be a lot of gaps, a million meetings of going back and forth in order to get into a prototype, to reiterate, to get where we need to get, right? So I see the power of all of this in truly re-envisioning and reworking that process, where it's a process that is focused on collaboration at its core. What that means is, especially when it comes to areas like healthcare, you're getting the domain experts, and here I'm talking about clinicians, healthcare administrators, healthcare regulators, etc., to be part of the conversation. So very early on, you're equipping them with the tools to be able to take an idea from an idea into even something as a proof of concept or a prototype, and utilizing technical resources for what they can do best, which is technical intelligence to improve their idea, right? And what that really does is two things. I think it shrinks the gap between technical and non-technical because you're going through a journey. It frees up the technical resources to focus on how they can scale their ability, not routine work, but rather the things that really matter: system integration, scalability, the risk, the inherent risk, the responsible innovation of it, where the focus shifts. And I would say, lastly, what it truly does between those two teams is ensuring that the solution that you're putting is one that will be adopted quickly. When it comes to domains like healthcare, if you take a solution that is built by clinicians for clinicians, inherently is going to be designed with them in mind, which ultimately makes the adoption of it a lot faster. And I think in the age of AI, that becomes more and more and more crucial. We can't operate in silos, and I think there is no place better than low-code, no-code, and Gen AI adoption to get into an area in which we're building with design intentively, responsibly, bringing the right assets together. So shrinking the gap, making sure everybody is part of the journey early on, and we're learning and failing quicker, because I think it's important to mention failures. Failures are learnings, right? And I think it's really critical to keep in mind it's an iterative process in which we can do more, learn more, and get into better solutions.
Thank you, Majd. I think that also speaks a lot about empathy and how do I see the world from your eyes as a technical person versus non-technical person. I think removes the barrier also to, you're not designing for someone, you're designing with someone in ways that creates a relevant product that is sustainable long-term, all of the wonderful things we want.
Well said.
Dr. Fouad, back to your initial thought earlier about the zero human and zero downtime, very critical infrastructure and system. In that kind of a mindset that is extremely critical, how can you think that low-code technology help bridge the integration gap between IT and operation systems to create more agile ecosystem while you're actually not having any downtime?
By the way, I loved how you used the word empathy. So in our domain, us as engineers, we use the word convergence, just to say empathy.
Yeah.
We're too formal to say empathy, we say convergence.
Nice euphemism.
So historically, IT and OT systems were air-gapped. It was a taboo to connect an IT system to OT. Gradually, with the need of data at business level, data interfaces with standard protocols, security interfaces, data started to flow out of the OT system towards IT. And back then, it was around 15 years ago where the talk about IT-OT convergence started. So fast forward, we are today in a situation where in OT domain, we have the IT components. So we're talking about hyper-converged environments, deployment of hypervisors, containerization that didn't exist before in OT. We're talking about bigger focus on system hygiene, that is mainly an IT DNA, housekeeping of OT systems, regular backups, regular patching, looking after security. Number 3, all these advanced applications, the emerging trends, whether related to AI, the layer of innovation, deploying applications, and so on, these are bringing IT and OT closer. The most important dimensions for me are 2 dimensions. Consolidation of procurement activities, because there are so many similar components that are purchased on both sides. It's very important for organizations to focus on building enterprise license agreements common to IT and OT, covering security components, operating systems, applications, virtualization tools, and so on. And the second dimension is skills. Currently, the OT skills used to be like protection engineers, SCADA engineers, site and commissioning engineers. But now in OT environment, we start to need IT skills for backup, hygiene, virtualization, all these new technologies. So focusing on a skills framework like SOFIA, skills for the information age, where you have a clear roadmap for building skills, for reskilling, upskilling, multi-skilling, is the fastest solution to ensure convergence and empathy between IT and OT. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Walid, back to you. With respect, as an IT leader and in this role, solutions that are built on low-code, no-code, I don't think we can say the same thing about vibe coding, by the way, need to remain scalable, secure, and future-ready. How do you think that we make sure IT leaders ensure that by using these platforms?
Very good question, and I believe we all very much familiar that technology is very dynamic. 3-4 years ago, I believe everyone was talking about blockchain and how you enable blockchain within your organization. Just within 1 year, everyone is talking about Gen AI, LLM model, how we build something within our organization. The year after, Gen AI became an old news, and everyone is talking about agentic AI, how we make a use cases that really can be used for the business. I'm not too sure you start to hear the news or not. If you are already adopting AI within your organization, now the cost become a real pain. And there is a serious discussion about how we can have a sustainable AI capability within our organization, that those use cases make sense. At the end of the day, business work on ROI. Technology is really beautiful, is really a key enabler, but as long as it will not gonna make sense commercially, this technology become a pain to the business. So back to your point, when you are choosing technology, we need to choose the technology based on your strategy and how this will enable your corporate capabilities, not the technology itself, because it will keep changing. So the first thing, I cannot agree more with than what Dr. Fouad just mentioned at the beginning. It starts with your enterprise architecture. You need to ensure that you have the right enterprise architecture in your organization and how those low-code, no-code systems are aligned with your enterprise architecture from the data layer, integration layer, core, presentation, and interaction layer. So first of all, make sure that you are using those technologies as an enabler and accelerator within a strong enterprise architecture in place. Secondly, I believe it has been repeated multiple times in this discussion, you need to ensure that you are building a new capability with governance at the core. Build things right, make sure that you are following a framework that will enable you eventually to really scale up those capabilities, updated as much as needed. Third is around governance, which is, in my opinion, you need to ensure that you have a proper, strong DevOps capability within your organization. Technology will just adhere to this DevOps framework and will just ensure that there is a proper documentation, proper design, proper build, proper phase approach to release this capability. Last but not least, I believe this has been repeated multiple times. Those technologies need to reposition their value proposition to adhere to the market dynamics. I mentioned at the beginning, technology keeps changing, so those low-code, no-code platforms start to change the value proposition. It is not just a tool to make development and prototyping easier. They start to ensure that they have inbuilt AI capability, agentic AI. So continuous improvement on those platforms, and you are leveraging those capabilities as being released are a key pillar of using those technologies. And that's what we actually see it in the market. Most of the low-code platforms that's currently leading in the market, they're changing their value proposition. AI and agentic AI become the first things that they bring on the table, rather than they are telling you, by the way, we are enabling you to prototyping without real development. So in my opinion, with those 4 pillars, you can strategize the enablement of low-code, no-code within your organization, rather than the other way around. You follow the technology rather than the technology following your corporate strategy.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Walid. It sounds like, the new shiny object is AI, and everyone is jumping on that wagon with forgetting some of the principle of what governance means, what structure means. And I think a low-code, no-code platform allows for that very solid infrastructure that will continue maintaining apps so they don't last a few months and they will last for 5 years, possibly plus. Tiberiu, I have a question for you. Now, you've probably been exposed to many use of low-code, no-code solutions around the world globally. What do you think are the best practices that you've seen so far that you think entities in the UAE can take advantage of and benefit from?
I'll try to answer the question from 2 different perspectives, one for automation and one for AI. From an automation perspective, and a bit back to our colleagues' discussion before, right? Having different automation platform, orchestration platform inside, if one of the platforms, no-code, low-code platform you're using has that capability, doesn't mean that we need to use it in all of them. And based on our experience, trying to bring all the automation in one place, that's a good idea, because you have a good overview, you understand what's happening, you can connect those flows, those workflows together in a more easy way. If you have some other flows that are in some other platforms, it's a lot harder to see the big picture. When building automation, build with error handling in mind. Even though we pilot, we test, we use sandbox and then go to production, there's going to be system errors, there's going to be API errors, there's going to be edge cases. So how we handle those errors seems to make a very big difference, especially in enterprise organizations, right? We try to reach for that 100% uptime, right? And it will be a bit less than 100%, but how we handle those errors, that's going to be a very important use case. Also from an automation perspective, templatize as much as you can, because it's going to be easier keep small workflows rather than very big workflows that are hard to manage, hard to scale. And now to switch to from an AI perspective, we're seeing a few big things with most of our projects that we work on. Define at the beginning very well the expectations of the business and the ROI for that business. We see a lot of use cases where the definition is not really good and the expectations of the business, of the user, are not really defined. And we want to think that AI can do everything, but in reality, there are limitations. We're seeing sometimes that we want to fully make agentic a process, but achieving maybe 90% of that automatically and having a human verifying and confirming that process, that output, it's recommended in most of the cases anyway, right? And it's probably, you get the ROI from that 90%, you don't need that final step, right? And we're seeing, if you set the right expectations from the start, you can convince the stakeholders to really approve that also with a manual step inside it. If you accept the expectation from the start, everything's gonna just work, it's a bit harder to go back. So I think that's one of the most important things. Then, check the costs before starting the project. We're seeing users using ChatGPT or Perplexity and all these kind of things, right? And you do like a nice deep search, doing an analysis on a company, for example, or on a certain subject. And then you want to do that by automation. But when you do that by API, the cost of that research, because it needs to do maybe 30, 40 prompt requests and internet searches and whatever, the cost of that starts to be maybe 5, 10 euros, $10 per research. Do you have the ROI for that use case? Because doing it in a subscription managed ChatGPT, it's easy. It's just part of the subscription. Doing it over API, scalable for 100,000 objects, total different story. So check the cost, check the pricing, understand that before really spending the project time and the piloting and doing all the work. And last but not least, being control and security, right? We see a lot of companies, and especially on this, that's more on the startup, but also in the companies using vibe coding. Vibe coding is great for very fast iteration, very fast interface UI generation, but you have very low control of what's happening. And we're seeing that if you try to modify a process that was already delivered, you're not getting you're not getting the answer that you're expecting, right? You can see this the best if you try to translate the page. You have one page, you generate the same page in a different language, and you try then to just change maybe one word. AI is very bad with that, because when it tries to generate again the page, it's not just replacing one word like code, it would just regenerate everything, right? So UI works very well. Low code, no code can really be the back end of that for now. We think that having the control over the workflow, over how the data is accessed, who has the access again, and how do we transfer that data to the UI, very, very important.
Thank you, Tiberiu. I'm going to conclude with you, Ustaza Maryam. One of the questions I have for you, the last question actually for this discussion, is knowing the UAE in general and its vision for a digitally empowered society, how do you think low-code, no-code is contributing to that, at least in terms of learning low-code, no-code?
Actually, no-code and low-code are helping people to try to improve themselves and show their talents. Like nowadays, we have a lot of initiatives in UAE for letting the youth to participate and show their talents, show what do they have for building their own startup or building their own companies, because we see nowadays a lot of youths are having their own companies, and if you ask them how they build it, they will say they are building by using low code and no code platforms for developing and creating something new to our worlds, to change our life and make it easier and compare it to the past. Even also the vision of the UAE is to transfer our economy to digital economy and to make our life like easier with using these applications and platforms. Even for women, it is supporting ladies to start their own ideas, and those things are really helpful for lives. Even in our work, when we are working and start doing data analysis or something for some companies. Nowadays, it is easier than before, because before we were staying for months to complete one mission, but nowadays in one click we can did it by using Power BI, and we are using Azure and AWS.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Maryam. This has been a fascinating conversation. At least for me, I learned quite a bit in this half an hour. That half an hour goes by very, very fast. One other thing I learned, thank you, Dr. Walid, with respect to let's not look at the new shiny object, so that we don't suffer from a solutionitis. We always go to the new greatest thing. Let's see how these solutions can complement one another while maintaining quality and scale. One other thing also that I've learned in this conversation, how can we still unleash people's potential to innovate within a controlled environment that provides sustainable solutions? And I think the last thing that I want to mention, we heard a lot about ROI as well, return on investment. I think it's very important and we should focus on ROI, but there's something else we should be focused on is also ROM, which is return on the mission. And when you're thinking about your mission and what you're trying to solve, that is usually a good guide to make sure that things are sustainable and still satisfying what we're trying to do. I want to thank my panelists today. It's been an amazing conversation. Thank you all. And hopefully we'll be here. And if there's any additional question or any conversation during lunch or coffee breaks, we'll be here to continue the conversation. Thank you very much.